Hello, friends. Today, let's talk about taking notes. Uh, Students take notes in school all the time. Sometimes they have to turn in their notes. Sometimes their notes are graded. But what is taking notes all about? Like, why do we do it? And what's a good philosophy to have about it, right? So at this point, I've been teaching math and physics for about 20 years. And this is how I like to explain taking notes to my students. So I want you to imagine that you're studying for a test. And as you're studying for that test, you're looking back over your notes. And let's say it's a class kind of like one of the classes I teach, physics or math, and there's a particular kind of problem you're looking at, and you're looking at the steps. Sometimes the problems that we do are complicated. There are a lot of steps, pull in a lot of different concepts. And so you may get to a point where you're looking at your solution and you're saying, well, how did I get from this step to this step? I copied down what the teacher wrote, but now I don't remember how we went from this step to this step. And then you say to yourself, darn you, past self, why didn't you explain to me how to get from this step to this step? Um, I wish you would explain this to me. Or here's another scenario. You're studying for the test and you get to a point where there's a tough concept and you knew, because you know yourself, you know your future self probably better than anybody else knows your future self. You know your habits, the things that you usually struggle with. And so you took notes in a way that you explained the concept. So the teacher wrote something down, but you made a little note. This is how this works. And then you're studying, your test studying self is looking at that and seeing, and then you say, "Oh, thank you. Thank you, past self, for explaining this to me with so much clarity. I appreciate that. Now I understand it. I remember. I wouldn't have remembered it otherwise. Thank you, past self. Now I'll be better prepared for the test." Okay. So when you're taking notes, what you're doing is you're writing a letter to your future self. You're basically reteaching your future self in a letter type format. And so I tell my students that when they're taking notes, or really anytime they're in class, they want to make decisions that their future self will thank them for. It's not just about copying down whatever the teacher's writing, it's about explaining things to your future self. Now that does two things. It does help your future self, so your future self can say, "Thank you, past self, for doing this, for explaining this to me. I appreciate that." But in the process of writing it down and explaining it to your future self, you are already coming to a better understanding of it. So that's the whole idea. That's how I think about notes. That's how I explain it to my students. And I think it's a helpful way to think about what are notes, why do we take them, what's the benefit of them. Okay, so make decisions that your future self will thank you for. I think that's true in general, by the way, uh, as we make decisions in life. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.